Anyone on? Oh, there's one. Oh, that's us. That's the host. Because at this point in time, if you know, when you put your, whatever you put in a contract is what you put in a contract. And it's just. You know, it's gonna be very hard to come back and say, oh, wait a second, you got 5 or 6% more than I did, you own it. You just can't do that. You know, it is what it is on the settlement statement. Now, in commercial, we've done that forever. A lot of times we've had contracts where I might have given you 2% and I got 7. You know, because, you know, I'm the one who worked this thing for 18 months and, you know, I don't know how long you work with your client, but that's the way the game rolls. And I've had some rolling eyes myself in the past, but overall, I try to be pretty well fair. I mean, you know, because they remember you. They will remember you. You screw somebody or you don't treat somebody fairly. They happen to have really good memories. So you also need to in here the parties have to agree to this. Any seller pay commission shall be credited toward the client's obligation. They need to understand these things. Or towards, yeah. Protection period, you really need to think about that. You might go out and show somebody 10, 20 homes. And you know, with a limited inventory, they may do a, you know, circle back and go look at one of those homes and write the offer on it. But you know, maybe after your agreement expired, they're gonna go, man, you know, I kind of like that house. Let's go back and look at it without you, instead of calling you and write the offer on it. We still need disclosure statements, company policy. We'll need our fishing documents. We'll need consumer guide, residential property disclosures. All that stuff is still going to be required. And then going through the inspection and testing of properties. You know, the professional advice always stands in contract ready.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So once you expire with them and they want to go back to that house, don't they have to have a buyer's agreement with whoever that opens that door?
Yeah. But what would happen? So it's a mud puddle.
Right.
Because let's say you show them this house, your agreement expires today. And 3 weeks later, we're talking and we go out and I go, yeah, you know, let's go look at that house. And it's an open house this time. And I go on the door there and there's that agent and he writes the offer on it. And you have a 90-day protection clause. And all they tell the agent is, no, we have our agreement expired. Did the agent say, do you have a protection period? I doubt it. I doubt it. So how do you go back? How do you go back to the client and say, hey, wait a second, I'm going to sue you? You know, it's sometimes you might say, well, you know, if it's $100,000 deal and you were thinking about $3,000 as your compensation, and you're going to go, well, I'm going to sue you. You might go, well, might not get too far. But what happens if it's $600,000 at 3% or 4%? Then you're at around 20 grand. You know, your mind thinks a lot differently. You know, that's a lot of money to leave on the table. And this is where we come into, you know, what is your value proposition? How do you build relationships? How do you maintain relationships after the expiration period of an agreement? All these things are going to be real critical because you're going to be calling me. And the first thing I got to look at is the agreement. What does the agreement say? So that is going to be the sticky part of it. So we really have to become really good at what we do and practice. And this is what we're here for now. This is the practice. This is the entire agreement, I mean, this is Columbus Realtors Buyers Agency Agreement. Ohio Realtors is much more comprehensive, I do like it better. But this one is in our new, an agreement is an agreement, it is enforceable. But then again, you have to make an economic decision on enforcing an enforceable document. You know, if you got the $3,000 commission, it's gonna cost you $15,000 in lawyer fees. Versus if I have a $40,000 or $100,000 commission and it costs me $40,000 in lawyer fees. Those are two different topics. And so we have to be very careful. And in protecting our interests. But so what I'm giving you here. You know, before we get rolling. Is you know, you have to believe, you must believe that you're worth every penny you make. You can't have doubt. When you have confidence in yourself, the people will see that. And so you got 105 reasons why you are.
Mark. Some of them said just class,
For pizza,
no class.
class,
Are you with class?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, sound that.
Like it.
And then my key fobs on.
Hey, how are you? How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, that's right. You're late. You gotta sit up front. You know the rules.
I don't
Oh, yeah.
have glasses.
Oh, if you wanna grab some pizzas, we got some pizza here for you.
Thank
Um,
you.
I knew you'd be hungry.
Yeah.
When can't you be here? So so go ahead and help yourself.
Thank you.
I'm bringing some documents. Oh, really? Grab some. You gotta break the box up there. Didn't you growing up?
How are you ladies?
Good, how are you?
Good. Are you guys having some fun? Come on up. I'm out of the pool, but you guys enjoy, I guess.
Big little winner.
They're all have like vegetables, this vegetables. I can't have cheese or something. This is vegetables. I like cheese. Get us some cheese, it's good. It's nice.
Don't be shy.
I'll try. That's a castle.
No, that's a garlic.
Oh. The place on the no, is it big things? Oh, no. Both of you want it? One thing.
Need something to cut it.
Yeah, thank you. It's already kind of big. Yeah, it has the cut mark, right? Oh, sorry, it's okay. It's okay.
No, the pizza just came.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Here's pizza and, cheesy bread.
Outstanding.
You don't need anything.
I'm doing great, long time no see.
And it were great cut already. I started talking.
There you go, all right.
Pardon?
Hi, how are you?
What do you?
Papers. So fair this meeting. Thanks.
When I was trying to.
That's one virus.
They asked me about it. So I didn't know if I looked like the actual paper or the uploaded version.
They allow you to scan it, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, so if are you gonna send it through email or how are you gonna do it?
I went to school and I think so I had it.
We're still, we can deliver it too.
Oh, no problem. I mean, it's how many. Alright.
Yeah, they'll need a little bit of.
Yeah, the little more texture, but yeah.
Here's the extra. Oh. Here's the.
So we were just going over a little recap of what we covered last week. About in July, they're gonna discontinue posting the compensation at the bottom of the MLS. I'll let you guys, so it's July. And so now we have to start learning how do we negotiate the services and fees that we are due. You know, if you go to an attorney, they're gonna bill you per hour. Are you gonna negotiate with them? You know, maybe probably won't be successful, but you know, if you have the right to negotiate for your compensation. And what we were talking about is we really need to understand this buyer's agency agreement. We need to read what value proposition you offer to the buying client. And you have to one-on-one really look in the client's eye and tell them, you know, what their responsibilities are to you. I'm going to work with you. You don't want them to go around you after you spend a lot of time doing research on that. Because before you even show a home today, you need an agreement of how you're going to work with your client. This is from the Columbus Board of Realtors. This was written back in, there was revised vision back in 19. We will probably have documents coming up this month from Columbus Board of Realtors that we'll be posting. But at the end of the day, you need to know what your value is. And so I thought, well, if you don't know what your value is, I just gave you 105 reasons right here of what your value is. So what we want to do is just, these are the things that you do when you're talking to your client. Or how you represent your client. These are things you're touching. I printed out a buyer's agency agreement on the printer for you.
Oh.
So go through and just think about what you do. In fact, I would look at the purchase agreement and then I would look at this. And because when the purchase agreement will tell you, if you're a good buyer's agent, the purchase agreement will tell you what value you are going to bring to the table. And I can tell you, buyers do not know. They do not know what a home inspection is. Kevin's going to go over that today. We've got some things we're going to talk about. So you really need to have that value. You know, you're going to go, I have Bill here to give us an update on mortgages and why it's so important. It's more important today to have your mortgage, your loan originator, your best friend. This is the guy you call every time. Because, you know, you can't work with 30 lenders because you're never going to get a hold of 30 lenders. You need to work with somebody you can call, you can trust them in their decisions. They understand how the mortgage system is fluctuating on a day-to-day basis. And so I have Bill here to talk to us a little bit about the mortgage today as a recap. And I want to, one of the things I asked Bill to do is to, when we have this buyer's agency agreement, we're going to say, I'm going to use numbers in the classroom. Don't use them outside the classroom. That's the Sherman antitrust thing. I'm going to say 3%. Now, geez, that's a novel idea. I'm worth 3%. But what happens if the seller's only going to pay me 1%? What do I do with the 2%? Or how do I negotiate that extra percent? And then, by the way, since the contract says 1%, how do I get the 2%? Make sure that the buyer can afford the 2% and get it in the mortgage, or I don't know if Bill's going to tell us if we can get it in the mortgage or not. But how do we get that on a settlement statement? You have to have that agreement. And then you have to have that heart-to-heart conversation. You have to go, hey, by the way, you're gonna owe me another $10,000 as part of the agreement. Now, can you do that? So that's part of our skill set, understanding the value proposition. And the only way that you are going to get that extra money on the table is that when I first meet you, I have to have this heart-to-heart. I really have to tell you how this whole thing's gonna go down. And you need to understand that if the seller does not cover the entire fee amount that I'm working here, then you may have to, because you may give up some, you may have to cover the difference. You really have to be that heart-to-heart. So Bill, tell us about the mortgage industry today. What's going on? You know, the mortgage rates go up, the mortgage rates go down. But we do have this issue and concern about what do you do with your commission dollars in a mortgage? I don't know.
Well,
Bill's gonna teach me today too. I don't know.
the first thing is, right now, VA was the only loan product that actually did not allow a buyer to pay real estate commissions and fees. They've now come out and said, they haven't released the official bulletin, but their director of policy said that they will be changing that to allow buyers to do it. Mark mentioned putting the fee into the mortgage. That's not gonna happen. Maybe it will down the road, but it's not something that's going to happen right now. The way it works right now is there are limitations on interested party contributions. Conventional loans less than 10 or less than 20% down is going to be 3% of your purchase price. And what you're going to need to do is negotiate in the contract. You're going to want to negotiate in your contract the seller to pay that. Okay. You're welcome. You could make it very specific in your offer that says seller to pay 3% of the purchase price to buyers, real estate agent. That's one way to protect it. One of the things, the other thing is really just to let your clients know how this all works. Mark talks about value, right? If you create enough value, do they see that you're worth 3%? If they don't, are you using a flat fee? Is it going to be tiered? If I show you 1 to 5 homes, it's going to be this much. If it's 5 to 10 homes, it's going to cost more. I mean, every house you show, you have time, you have gas, you have time away from your family. All those things have value. One of the things I've been talking, a lot of buyers don't even know this is going on, first and foremost, guys. They really don't know because they've never really understood anything about real estate commissions. They just know that you're showing them homes and they know you're getting paid and they know it doesn't cost them anything, right? So when Mark talks about it's important who you work with, I mean, first and foremost, I've been doing this 30 years. So loan officers went through a commission change due to Dodd-Frank in 2008, 2009. So I understand the fear. I understand not knowing what to do. Here's what I'll tell you guys. A lot of loan officers went out of the business then. There will be a lot of realtors that go out of the business now. The ones that could show value, could educate borrowers, that could bring more to the table other than opening up a door are going to be very, very successful. My commission before Dodd-Frank was I could pick a loan product and I could pick an interest rate. And that interest rate and loan product would pay my company anywhere from 1% to 6% of the loan amount. And then I got half of it. Well, Dodd-Frank said every loan, regardless of rate, regardless of product type, you have to be paid the same commission. And in Ohio, most companies and loan officers gravitated towards 1% of the loan amount. I had 2 of my best earning years, the 2 years right after that. Even though my commission got cut by several percent. Why? Because I was always the loan officer that would take the time, show customers multiple options, answer the questions, be available in the evenings and weekends when the bank loan officers were working their 9 to 5 and, you know, golfing all weekend. And those people had to get out of the business because they could no longer justify or get clients to come along. So I've been having a lot of conversations with buyers. And you're gonna have two types. You're gonna have the ones that are gonna try to backdoor you. If and go straight to a listing agent because they have no funds available, right? And you're gonna have others that may tell you, I don't wanna see a home where you're not being compensated. My daughter recently bought a home and I was kind of reviewing this with her. She worked with the #2 agent in the Ohio Valley region of Keller Williams. So this lady had done a great job. But my daughter still wanted to hear what I thought about it. And I said, well, right now, it's pretty much business as usual. If you haven't found a place by July, things may change. And she said, Dad, I've been saving for 3 years to buy this house. I don't have an extra $6,000 or $8,000. And I said, well, then you'll make a choice. You'll make a choice to let your agent know that if they're not paying, that you just can't make an offer on that house. And she was like, yeah, if they're gonna be that dumb, then I don't even want to buy their house. Those are gonna be some of your buyers. But here's what I handed you was what I've been looking at and I've been using this a little bit now, just in practice, knowing that it's coming within probably 30 or 45 days is what happens in different scenarios. So in this particular case, this buyer was looking at a property that was $385,000. That was the list price. So in the first column where it says seller paid BAC, this is a loan example of, I guess, what we would call normal in the past, although we're waiting for the new normal. So the seller was actually paying the 3% buyer's agency commission, or splitting their listing fee 3 and 3, okay? The second option is that's not happening. How do we get around that? Well, one thing we could do is we can negotiate a little higher sale price, 3% higher, and ask the seller to pay you. So in option 2, we go up in price to $396,550. Payment's a little bit different, but the customer, instead of needing, what is that, my math's gonna be bad, but let's say around $11,000, they really only had to increase the amount they needed to bring the closing by $600. Their payment went up a little bit, but they didn't have to write a check for $10,000+. Okay, and then the third column, and then these borrowers were putting 5% down. Okay, the third column I called commission gap, and that's when not only are they not offering it, but we don't expect the house to be able to appraise, or it doesn't appraise. Maybe you did write it for an extra 3%, but it appraised the list price. So here's what a good loan officer would do for you. They shift 2% of the down payment to pay you. We add a little bit of mortgage insurance and we switch to a loan product that only needed 3% down instead of 5%. The customer's cash to close does go up a little bit more, but it's still not the $12,000 that they would have needed to pay you. And now you're only negotiating $3,800, right? Maybe you could negotiate that into the contract, right? If the appraisal came in low, that's part of the appraisal contingency, right? That's right. So then you would be able to maybe go back and say, okay, we'll give you the full 385 that it appraised for, but I need 1% buyer's agency compensation versus 0. So there's going to be it's just really going to be communication and education, right? Because the market will dictate the market. I think listing agents that are taking listings and not paying a buyer's agent, some of them might still sell their house very quickly. But why would you want to reduce that pool? And first-time home buyers are going to be the ones. So anything probably less than 450, 500,000, that's kind of that and below is where first-time home buyers are now. If you're not paying, if you're going to be the listing agent and you can't sell the fact that you need to have every buyer's agent in Central Ohio looking at your property, those homes are going to start sitting a little bit, or they're going to discount prices. So, but there are discussions within the mortgage industry, and we have products now, like for self-employed borrowers that don't show enough money on their taxes. They can use bank statements or their 1099s. Those are called non-QM products, right? Interest rates are a little higher because they're a little riskier. They're not qualifying under normal circumstances, but they're available. We could see a non-QM product come out that allows buyer's agency composition or commission to be financed, but that's right now your conventional loans, your FHA, VA, USDA, they're not permitting that because those mortgages are pooled and sold as investments. And they're based on their loan to value, so they can't go over that by adding your state compensation. Do you have any?
Yep.
Any questions?
So, I mean. You know, you should take your mortgage lender out to lunch. Out to dinner. Because these guys are gonna make you a lot of money this year. Because of these type of new ways of negotiating. I mean, it used to be, you know, I'm gonna negotiate price, we're gonna bounce back and forth, and well, okay, we come in the middle. It's no longer like that, you know, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna stick to my price, I'm not gonna pay your commission, but then you have to use the mortgage, part of the mortgage, you might have to. Bump the price a little bit, you know, there's all sorts of, you might have a mix match of all three things in the game today. And then you have to get it to the settlement stage, and then you have to figure out how, when those funds are dispersed, then you have to figure out how you're gonna get it.
And one of the things I forgot to mention that I just will ask is there's also some loan programs that are for first time home buyers. That you could get maybe a grant or some kind of down payment assistance, and you should money, you take that grant, or you take that bond program, or you take the 100% FHA, and you take what they were going to use for down payment, and now let that be what you're paying. So we kind of just move some money around. We bring more money into the deal on the lending side to free up some of the cash they had. But I can see circumstances, and I know you're probably alluding to this too, Mark, where you get to the point where they don't have it, they can't qualify for one of those, whatever it is, and you're gonna have to make a business decision, and that's, you know, do I help them right?
Because again, as Keller Williams Greater Columbus Realty, we don't say you have to have. It's your business, remember, you're in business for yourself, and so you have to determine. Do I let $3,000 go so they can have a house, because that's my job, is to sell them a house. And yeah, I'm gonna be short $3,000. But I might walk away with 12 instead of 15. Now, 12 in my pocket, I'm pretty happy. I mean, so, you know, what this business decision are we gonna be making down the road? And it's, you know, you're gonna bite your tongue. You know, nobody likes to leave any money on the table, nobody. So keep that in mind. We were Ann was writing an offer on a property last night. And so the 0%, this was out in Delaware, on Executive Boulevard Drive, and the commission amount is 0. So it's already here. No, they're not waiting until July. They're already here. Because the homeowner, the sellers are, they hear the news. You know, you don't have to pay a buyer's agent. Oh, great. But here's what will happen. I think it will all balance out in the end. We just have to be prepared today. Listing agents are going to start carrying their homes 90, 120, 180 days. I see the hold period on listings going to be longer. And they're going to go, well, you're not paying the buyer's agent, they're not coming. You know, so I got a feeling that a good listing agent will always have the conversation of the value that the buyer's agent will bring to the table, and you better compensate them. I don't know how that story will go.
Or
Twist their arm, break their leg.
like you were saying, if they go straight to the listing agent, and then the listing agent just keeps it, but maybe they only negotiate 3% for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So then they're doing both sides with 3. It's just all like, there's just basically no rules, like I want to listen agreement and say, it's only 3, but it's gonna be 4, and I have to handle the buyer too, or something, you know? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
You're gonna want the buyer agreement, you need the buyer broker.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna want one signed on every deal.
No, but I mean,
Because
the
of-
listing side.
Yeah, I know, but I'm telling you, from your side to protect yourself.
Yeah.
You gotta have a buyer's agreement on every buyer that you're showing.
Right.
Every
The
showing.
listing agents hopefully ethically won't do
Every
that.
showing.
I'm
So it's
talking
like,
about.
If they know you have a.
you better get one that says, I'm gonna show you
listing
30 homes. Otherwise you're getting 30 agreements.
Well, but even if you go to
And you-
the listing agent
you know,
and say, hey.
it's negotiation.
Listing agent.
You know, you can call the agent, are you compensating? Are you doing any co-op compensation? Are you gonna make 30 calls? Are you co-oping compensation? Are you co-oping compensation? Are you gonna make those calls to figure out what,
But I think
how
we
to
know.
play the game? Or just go right at it? We've already had the conversation with the client. This is where we're going. We're going in at 3%. We're gonna negotiate hard. We're gonna come in with a price. This is how it's gonna play out. So, it's just like it's a game. You know, if you're playing a football game, you know, the coach has got a game, you know, if you make 3 yards, he changes his play. You know, if he makes 10 yards, he goes to the first down again. So it's a game. So, you know, how many yards you're gonna make on your play? So understanding your value, know your 105 ways. I'm quizzing you tomorrow morning. And so that you need to know that value. And do get to know Bill. He's here every day. I'm here every day. I see you every day. So get to know.
The drop dead date on that's August 17th, MLS. They don't know whether it's gonna shut off at 12:01 on the 17th or 11:59 on the 16th, but the drop dead date for MLS from that change will be, all compensation will be removed as of August 17th. Then
That's right.
that's the date that they're,
Yeah, they did say August.
they just
So
changed.
the
they
ruling
came out with it.
It's July.
Yes.
So
How did
a lot of brokers are not waiting until August.
that MLS in Washington State, and Oregon decide not to follow that? So, like, how are they legally able to do that?
If they're not a member of NAR.
Okay, in the Columbus MLS is part of the.
They have private MLSs, non-realtor owned.
Okay,
So
that's the distinction.
you could avoid some of that, yes. Okay, so our next class, you know, we're gonna, again, we just touched base on the buyer's agency at mortgages, and we're gonna have Kevin come up here in a sec. I'm gonna introduce the home inspection paragraph of the purchase contract. It's the longest paragraph of conditions and faults and everything else that you could possibly wish. So it's really good to understand how to properly go through the home inspection process. And just like I said, if you have a good relationship with your mortgage originator, I can call Bill on the weekend and say, I think I might have an issue here. And what happens if he comes up with a solution so we can make the contract work? That's having a good relationship. You also have to have a good relationship with your home inspector. So again, just keep in mind that in July, offers of compensation will not be in the MLS. So the drop dead for Columbus Realtors will probably push to August, but remember, you probably start to see other brokers not to bring it in. But you are allowed to negotiate your commission. And then once the rules become totally effective, it becomes law. Remember, this is a law. So under the Ohio Revised Code, you are required to, it's like a driver's license, you have to have a buyer's agency agreement. This will be law. And so you must have a written representation agreement when you're working with your clients. And that agreement will have this 105 ways to fall in love with me is why I get paid, You know, so you better, you know, what is your elevator speech? And then what is your thesis report look like? You better know them both, because your value proposition is critical. So I want you to write this down right here. You want to go to facts.realtor and competition.realtor. There's information about all of this there on these sites. It's NAR site providers. You should go ahead and write those down and do a little exploration and studying yourself about that. So you need to become, you have to become transparent. And it's real important, because here's what happens. This is just, the reason why this is here is because some realtor someplace didn't tell his seller how people were going to get paid, and they got upset and they filed a complaint, and it happened to be a class action complaint. Had he told them that, hey, by the way, I'm going to charge you 6%, I'm going to take 3% by the buyer's agent, and had something in writing, maybe we would not be here today, but so be it. We're embracing transparency. You want to tell your client what the hell's going on in your world, because you are the business owner. This is your business. You're not an employee of. Business owners can make $100,000 a year. Business owners can make $1 million a year. You are your own business. So transparency, bring your value to the table. Now look at that. Now we have the other big dog in the room. Kevin. Kevin is gonna go over the home inspection paragraph. He's gonna talk a little bit about Linkhorn when he does some of the things that he's seen. This right here is the reason why you do not want to waive the home inspection. You know, in negotiations, you don't want to say, you know, maybe if you waive your home inspection, you know, that's not my advice to you guys. I go, if the client says, well, what if I waive the home inspection? Then say, I'm gonna have you sign a document that says, I choose not to have a home inspection. Because what happens after you close, and 2 months into the house, and that bathroom toilet's leaking through the ceiling over there, and it couldn't have been discovered during the home inspection because it was loose.
Best case scenario is 2 months later. Normally it's 2 weeks after they move in.
Yeah,
The first shower, they stand in the shower.
Yeah. So,
We get those
if
calls.
anyone ever goes, when you're negotiating with a buyer and that buyer's, and you're talking about home inspections and waiving them, you need to get a waiver, protect yourself, because, and then make sure you save it. And if don't text it. Preferably write a letter or have an email, send an email, you know, per our conversation today. As we present the contract on 123 Main Street, you have elected to disregard the option of having the home inspection and understanding the potential consequences if something was to go wrong in the future. Can you please acknowledge that you received this email? You have to acknowledge, I never saw a new email. It's sitting in their inbox. They saw it, but they never replied back. So, I mean, this is what goes on.
Protect yourself for sure. Like this is the thing, you know, a year ago, it got to be kind of a hot button when the market was going crazy and there's multiple offers and $50,000-$70,000 over asking. It became a trend for almost 2 full weeks where there was people were saying, oh, you don't need to get the inspection. This makes it a stronger offer. And so somehow waiving an inspection period, waiving a remedy became a sales pitch for some really weak realtors who were saying, oh, you don't need that. This makes our offer better. And it really got a few people in trouble very quickly when the house closed and 2 days after they were in the house, literally the first shower they took leaked all the way through to the living room, the dining room, kitchen table. That becomes a really big issue when they come back and say, but my realtor told me I didn't need to, we didn't know. So you gotta be very careful of that. My advice to everybody would be just be smart about it. Be careful. There's gonna be times that you're gonna have customers, you're gonna have clients that say, I don't want to spend the money on it. I don't think we need it. We know there's gonna be stuff that needs fixed in the house. That's okay. Make sure that they sign that to protect yourself. Make sure you get something back that says they told you they don't want it. What you don't want is to be caught out there holding on to you told them or you didn't tell them. You didn't even give them good advice. I'll tell you what we're seeing this year is there's a little bit of noise, just a tiny bit around it right now, maybe for the last couple of weeks. That the realtors are talking about it again. And most of the realtors that I've talked to, almost everybody I've heard has said, yeah, we're still pushing you know, you got to give 3 inspectors, right? You're giving them 3. They have a choice of who to use. I would love it if you guys use Linkhorn Inspections. We do a great job and I'd love to tell you some more about us and I will. But the reality of it is, you know, your job is really to help give good advice. Work with a partner that's going to do the same thing, not panic them when they go in. We go in and do an inspection. I think probably one of the best things that we do as an inspection company is not create a situation where your buyer is like, holy crap, this house is really bad. We're going to go in and we're going to find things. Every inspector is going to go in and find things on the house. That's our job. There are certain things that are good. There are certain things that are bad, but we try and make sure that we explain to people, look, this is a snapshot in time. This is a today inspection. The HVAC seems to be working, it's cooling, it's doing its job. Hey, when we're doing furnaces in the wintertime, it's heating, it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Right now, today, everything looks great, but it's a snapshot in time. So 2 weeks from now, we have no idea what's gonna be working and what's not, especially as we get into older houses. We check everything from top to bottom. We start on the outside, we make sure that we look at grading, is water getting away from the house or is it sitting near the house? And then if you see it sitting near the house, the first thing they want to do, they make a mental note because they're taking pictures and saying, look, if there's water near the house, I wonder what the basement looks like. What if there's cracks in the foundation? And so we go and check all of these things for you and for your client, so that you're just giving a really good informed information. We've got a couple of really cool things that are free with every inspection. One's a repair pricer that comes to you and you only. It's a chance for you to see, based on the summary page of the inspection, what an average cost to fix all of those items might be. And it could range anywhere from, $1,500 to $25,000 if it's roof. If it's a basement wall, you don't really know. And a lot of times our suggestion is, hey, looks like there's some issues on the roof. You ought to have a roofer come out here and give you a true estimate, tell you whether it's repairable or whether it needs to be replaced. Because that change in cost could be thousands and thousands of dollars. So repair pricer is there for you to give you an idea to have a great conversation with your clients. And so that's free on all of our inspections. So that's a really cool one. We started this about 1.5 years ago, and I continue to get questions from realtors every day about how to utilize repair pricer. And it's not one to share with the buyers. It's really not. It's one for you to use to have a great conversation. It's based on licensed contractors only. So based on average cost from a licensed contractor in the area that the house is based on zip code, that's where the information comes from. So you might have somebody who family member who does drywall, somebody who does plumbing on the side, somebody who does all this stuff, they may do it for cheaper. We can't really quote that because we don't know that. We can only quote it based on licensed contractors. So use that as a tool, that's all it is. So do you want to talk about the actual paragraphs? Was that a 2-page paragraph?
The contract itself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been seeing, I thought was a great idea, rather than waiving inspection, is setting a limit on what repairs you would even ask for. Are you seeing that too? Like they'll say, we're having an inspection, but no remedy will be asked for any item less than $1,000 or something like that. That way the buyer's still protected, but if it's something super major,
Yep.
they have their out or they have their ability to go back.
It's really funny because that started really last year when they started to put that verbiage in. But the reality is you could go back and ask for a remedy no matter what. I think that we're going to come to a time, especially with all the talk about compensation being on the contract and in it, and this very topic about remedy or no remedy, I think you're going to see a tighter shift to understanding that you're signing a purchase contract. It's a legal and binding document. So if you say to somebody, hey, I'm not going to ask for remedy, and you do your inspection, you find out there's enough in there that you say, well, I want to walk away. Right now, a lot of times you still get your earnest money back, they're okay, they put it on the market, they sell to somebody else. I think you're going to see this tighten up where people are saying, look, you told me you weren't going to ask for anything, and now you're trying to walk away from a contract that you wrote. We're keeping the earnest money. I think you're going to see some of that start to come into play, and especially with the way NAR and OAR are scrutinizing the contract and really starting to lean back on that for the compensation piece. I think you're going to just hear more noise around, understand that's a contract, that's legal and binding. So be careful how you write it up, no matter what you're talking about.
And we do see, I see that. They come in my office and they go, Mark, they said they would ask for no remedies and they come back with a $10,000 remedy or they're gonna walk away.
Right.
I don't know what I can do. I mean, the only thing is you gotta get a hold of an attorney. He breached the contract. You told me you weren't gonna do anything. Now you're coming back with a remedy of 10 grand or whatever. Some people don't care. They go, well, I'll walk away. Well, that is a breach of contract. You violated your own terms and conditions, and it probably would stand up in court. So the lawsuit would be the homeowner puts it back on the market and sells it for $20,000 less. Then he can go back to the first buyer and say, you know what, you cost me $20,000, I'm suing you for $20,000 in court costs. I don't know.
They're gonna win, I'm telling you, somebody's gonna win that one, and it will become a bigger topic as time goes on.
And
In our society, people are litigious as hell, like, we're gonna sue somebody. And this was a really interesting, good one because of that. So just be cautious how you write it up, be cautious how you guide a buyer. But the reality of it is, going back and asking for a remedy, if you found out that there was a foundation problem and the sellers had no idea, they really didn't, most of the time, you're just renegotiating with the seller, hey, we found it, we still want the house, can you fix it, or could we split the difference? And so there's still negotiation in there, that's what addendums are for. Because it's a legal and binding contract, whatever you agree to, you just put it back in writing and get everybody to sign it again, and you're still in contract. It's not a breach to say, holy crap, this isn't what we thought it was, we probably would like to get out of this contract. There's no breach in that. Right? If you're still just talking to people, you're trying to work out, we may need to adjust the contract to fit. And the inspection shouldn't be a deal breaker. It's information. It's information about that house as of that.
Inspection should be your honeydew list.
Yeah, oh my gosh, right.
How do you go do this?
And that's why I think, what really repair price should become a really nice list with kind of an average cost to hand to your buyer after closing or at closing and say, hey, here was all the things, remember, that showed up on your inspection report. Here's an idea of what it's going to cost you. And you can prioritize which ones you want to do first. Now that you're in, over the next 2 years, these are things that you probably want to do something to, but here's what your cost might be. Right now, you're the friend with good advice.
Remember, this is your value proposition when you're talking to the buyer. This is how this is going to go, 100%. Part of my value proposition is that, and I've been in this business for a while, and a while could be 24 hours, it could be 25 years. The client doesn't need to know what your while is. All you have to do is say, I've been in business for a while. And from that period of time, I've happened to run into several inspectors, and by state law, I really should recommend 3 inspectors to you. And, Kevin's gonna be on the top of the list, but I'm not gonna tell him that. But I'm gonna have his name bold, highlighted, with stars all around it, and everything else just be, lower font, you know how that works. But I gave you a list of 3 people, right? So you need, and that's your value proposition, because you don't want to say, well, I'm such good friends with Kevin that Kevin skewed this deal. I don't want that to happen. Now, when you've been around a while, you've been to be friends with a lot of people.
You bet.
So that's one reason. The state has come up and said you need to provide names. You need to provide 3 licensing names. And just as the way that you could verify a real estate license at the division website, you could also verify a home inspecting company's license and the individual agent.
It was right before COVID, they put in place the licensing for home inspectors. So all home inspectors now, they all have to be licensed. So.
If you want, I have a sign-up sheet going around. If your email's on it, I'll email you slides.
Oh,
So you guys don't have to take pictures, so you'll have them to refer back to. When you have an inspection, just don't, to me, that's just me now. I'm just not gonna say, well, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Business Buyer, inspection's gonna be on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, Kevin's gonna be there. And I don't show up. Now, that's not a good relationship building event. If I'm gonna be there, I should be with Kevin. I'm not gonna get in his way. I might talk to the client a little bit about the neighborhood, value proposition, how homes are appreciating at 8% a year, and how the value of you live in a house for 8 years. Now I'm talking about market value and stuff like that. So when he comes back and says, well, you do have, $5,000 worth of repairs. Remember, the home just appreciated 8% this year, and that way outweighs that $5,000 expense. If you know these things, you can talk these things. And you find all this stuff is available through your Columbus Board of Realtors. So you should be at the inspection. And get it scheduled.
Yeah, we probably, it's probably 50-50. Realtors had an inspection, honestly. It's just, you know, some are adamant about being there, and again, they're definitely not. Normally, you know, inspection, if we started at 8:30 in the morning, the realtor will get there an hour and change into it with the buyers. The buyers don't need to be there. Their dad, who always shows up at the inspection, doesn't always need to be there at 7:45, walking around the house looking. They can come once they get started, because again, we start from the outside and we work from the outside upstairs all the way down to the basement. And so, but we get about half of them come.
In mind, you have to be a licensed inspector. You have to be, if you're doing an engineering report, he has to be licensed. You know, it can't be your brother who used to build homes and he knows all about joists and headers and stuff. No, if he's not licensed, you know, it doesn't, you know, if you want to walk and talk, he can talk all he wants, but he's not, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna say, where's your report? I'd like to know the license number, because the other realtor knows they're supposed to be licensed. See, I know what he knows and he knows what I know. So it's not like we're playing games with each other. Where is the license of that inspector? So doing that, so this is real critical in the game of, I hate to call it a game, but maybe I just have too much fun. So it became effective in 21, and you're right, it was right after COVID. It finally became law, and you know why this became law? Some inspector inspected one of the state senators' homes and did a really, really bad job. That's how laws are created.
100%.
He pissed off somebody. And so they created this licensing law. And but now Lincoln has been licensed as long forever and ever and ever. So I'm really not, and if you're short list, there's over 1,000 of them, but it's really good to pick somebody local, get to know your local people. Exemptions is what we talked about. If you have an engineering problem and you want to get an engineer out there, you know, most engineers are licensed. If you want a HVA, if they come back and say, you know, through the camera work that we ran through the furnace, we saw a cracked heat exchanger. Well, then I recommend you getting an HVAC licensed contractor out to the house. So you may have to extend that inspection period. So if it's a 10-day period and you're at day 8, it's going to take you 3 more days to get the HVAC contractor out there. You have to ask for that extension. You can't call me and say, hey, Mark, the HVAC contractor will be out there on Wednesday. Well, your home inspection period expired on Monday. And it's not, and then you're gonna go, well, you know, you come back with a report, it says the furnace needs to be replaced, and I'm gonna tell you, well, you're outside your home inspection period. Ask for the extension in time and day, so you don't just randomly do that. I see that. I've seen that before.
That happens a lot still, right? You're trying to get people away from doing that, right? Like trying to, again, it's a contract.
If you go outside the perimeter, if you say 10 days for the home inspection, and because you need a roofer, and you need an HVAC contractor and get one of the basement guys out there, and you better extend it, you know, 7 to 10 days or whatever you need to get these people out there. And then, Mr. Buyer, here's your option. And if the seller says, no, I'm not gonna allow for the extension, your option is to terminate this deal. Now, when I call the agent and say, because your seller did not allow us the extension time required to have the furnace inspected, the roof inspected, and the basement inspected, I said, I'm going to tell you, I'm sure you're going to amend your RPD and let the new buyers know that. Because it's not top secret no more, it becomes public information. And then if I'm really ticked off and I see that you closed, you're the realtor and you closed on the house, I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna say, hey, did they tell you that basement was, you know, there was something under the basement and the roof was bad and the HVAC system was, there was a crack in the heat exchanger? And if they say no, then you just won your first war. Because there's no way that other agent will be able to defend himself. And nor will the seller be able to defend himself. So on one call to an attorney and you got yourself the new, you lost the house, but somebody else has brand new stuff. Had you played fair to begin with, none of this would have happened. Okay,
The inspection period, when you make sure you give them 3, and there's a lot of reasons that somebody would pick somebody other than us. Sometimes we're not available on the day that they want to be out there, they're available to do that, so given the options gives them a chance to, you know, a lot of times, we see anything from 7-day to 10-day on the inspection period on the contracts. But if you write a contract on Sunday night at 9:30, and that's when it's all accepted. Everybody's all excited, they forget to do anything on Monday, and on Tuesday, they were talking to each other, and they said, I thought you did it, well, I thought you did it, and by Wednesday, they call us and say, holy crap. We forgot to order the inspection, and now that 7 days started on Sunday night at 9:30, we really need to hurry. That's really why you want 3 names on the list, and if you run into things where we've got 11 inspectors on staff. We do Saturdays and Sundays as well, so we're available the same way you would be to make sure that it gets done. If we're not your first choice, keep us on the list, because there will come a time where if you use somebody who's a smaller company and they're already booked up, you're gonna want somebody that's gonna be able to get out there and do it under that time frame to make sure that you meet that. Because we see that a lot, where their call, somebody always forgets, and it's always like our Wednesday calls are really kind of funny because they're very predictable. They're like, holy crap, I gotta have this done by Friday. Are you able to get it done by Friday? And we almost always have a couple of spots open for just that on Fridays. That we'll get it, don't worry, we'll get somebody there. And so that's the main thing is, you know, having 3 gives you kind of a backup plan to timeframe.
but I always say, when when you're writing this contract, if it, you know, you're in an inspection period, it says you have 10 days to get the inspection done. It's your fiduciary duty to protect your client and make sure that you call Lincoln. You know, you get the contract signed and this Sunday night, you know what I'm doing? He gets an email from me, Sunday. What do you got in the week to get me in there? You know, and I'm going, well, I might have a basement guy out because the basement's wet. I go, whatever's happening, I'm doing right now. Because in our business, the average home sale, I'm gonna go high, is $400,000. It's about $360,000 today for entry level housing. How do you like that? Shit, my first house, excuse me. My first house was $87,000. And I squeaked into that one, boy.
That was probably a good one back then too, right?
Yeah, that's good. I still own it. I tore the house down, I built a new one. So I still have the land, because it came with a lot of land. What was I gonna say?
They were talking about the inspection period, making sure that,
Yeah, I mean, you have a duty to make sure that you're doing, because at the end of the day, if you lose the contract and it's $400,000, you just lost $12,000 base points. And now you have to spend another 60 or 90 days to go do it again. And then how many of those a year can you lose? You know, if you want $100,000 a year, GCI, you need 10 of them. And if you lose 5 or 6 of them throughout the year, that means you have to hustle 16 deals. And that's a lot of work. Now, I expect you to do 50 closings a year because I can see wealth in your eyes. So, like I said, I still have fun with this work. So this is the Ohio Revised Code.
how new are you guys? How new are you guys as realtors?
I'm supposed to pass my exam,
Okay,
my license, exam.
We just came into one.
just came in, just in, all right.
Office.
Fall, okay, so you're doing it. Couple years, good, couple years. So again, like, you know, it's really like the wide range of people in the industry. Everybody needs to kind of refresher and needs to remember kind of who they're using, where they're using, and how their resources are, because you're just gonna gather over the. Starting out new is great, because you're just trying to gather resources. How do I know who I recommend? So I can feel confident. I get an email or a text probably once a week on a Saturday or Sunday night that says, hey, Kevin, we're under the gun. We told them we do a 5-day inspection period. Are you okay with that? All I say, answer back, yep, send me the name, the address, and a phone number. My people will call them tomorrow to get it on the calendar to make sure we schedule. So we've got people who answer the phones and talk on, we schedule Saturdays and Sundays. So we can get them on the schedule and we can help make that happen. So like he was saying, getting the email out to me right away. If you get it to me, I'll make sure that we have somebody call your client to get it scheduled. That way, you've just given me enough information. It's really the address, their phone number and name, and we'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I get up early, sometimes 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I get down on my computer and oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And I type up my emails and I set them out at 4:30 in the morning. Like, I'm not waiting at 6 or 7 or 8, it's done, it's gone. I go on to the next, I go on to the next, I go on to the next. So if you have something on mind and you go, well, maybe I'll wait to 8 in the morning to do it. In today's world of technology, you know, Kevin, are you available in the next 30 minutes to do a home inspection?
Look, I'm not a home inspector either, so that's what you do, like, you don't want me standing on a roof.
But here's the
You
thing,
don't want me crawling in the
before
crawl.
you leave today, you should
want
have
that.
Bill's phone number in your phone, and you should have Kevin's phone number in your phone, because these are important people in our lives.
And I'll make sure to give you my cell phone, that way you can really, I'll give you both the office line and the cell phone that we've got.
All right, we already talked about this. With the hold harmless language, I told you that if a homeowner says, I don't want a home inspection, you want hold harmless, and if you're holding not only you harmless, you're holding the brokerage harmless. And if you have any problems about how to write that, you let me know. But all you have to do is I've informed you of the risk, and you're gonna hold me harmless. That if you come back to me 2 weeks after you close, you got a problem. 3 names on the home inspection. Know the areas of inspection, because I do see home inspectors come in and say the furnace should be serviced. Now, that means maybe you should have it inspected by a licensed or a licensed HVAC. That happened to me once when first year and a half I got in. Young couple had a brand new baby, bought a house down on Carl Road. And still remember the agent. We had the inspection and I said the furnace, the remedy was you had to inspect the furnace. So the seller had the furnace inspected. So the HVAC contractor comes out to the house, and little did I know, I got the receipt. It said the furnace is okay, it turns on, everything's okay. And so, but when the clients moved into the house, the carbon monoxide detector went off. The fire department shows up and tells the young couple with the brand new baby in the middle of winter with snow on the ground that you gotta go get a hotel room, you can't stay in the house. I called the agent and she said, well, he inspected the furnace. And so I called the furnace guy and he says, yeah, he just asked me to turn the furnace on and turn it off, see if it worked. So somebody conned somebody, right? Today, back then, I had no money. But today, I would have taken that one, I would have done that one myself. I would have gotten an attorney and taken that guy to court. Because this young couple was left out in the bag. I didn't know what to do. I still remember it. I still remember the agent. See, I tell you, if you treat somebody wrong, you do not forget.
So,
This is in 1998. I won't tell you how old. Were you born?
we do, but that's.
I don't know. Who wasn't born in 1998?
As an option on your inspections too, all of your buyers, if we really handle, we're kind of a one-stop shop for the inspection piece. We're able to, if you call us, we can inspect everything. We can make sure if it's got well and septic, we can get that arranged and set up. If you want to do a radon test, we have that availability. Our guys go out there and they do that. It's 48 hours that sits there to test radon. We do sewer scopes. We do wood destroying insect termites. We do all of those inspections ourselves too. So you don't have to worry about if you think there's issues on the house, we'll help you take care of scheduling all of that with your buyers at the time of that inspection. And again, with the idea that hitting those timeframes that you need to hit within 7 days, having all that stuff done. Or at least you would know, once we've done an inspection and say, hey, you know what? This furnace is not working, it's not doing what it's supposed to do. you probably have to have somebody come out there. At that point, you can ask for an extension on the contract.
So so the walk and talk inspection, so you're bringing an inspector out just to get a limited inspection. So you still have to have an agreement with the inspector. Say, okay, what do you want? I might say, here's the thing, I only want you to do the furnace and the heat exchanger and the backup generator. And check the roof, you know, but maybe just listening. So I'm gonna put that in my report. This is what I'm gonna do. But the inspector has to put a written report of the findings. So when I can't give you a verbal feedback, and then you take my verbal feedback and you go back to the agent. Because a good agent's gonna say, I don't see it in writing. So you need it in writing. The home inspector board will adopt these rules. So all this is now codified, written in contract. So if you're gonna have like a partial inspection, I just want you to knock this thing out a little bit. I'm not worried about. I'm gonna replace the electricity anyway, when we have the house. But I want you to look at these things.
We're seeing more of these on listing side, where listing agents are asking us to come out pre-listing and do the majors. And they'll ask us just to come out there, check the, roof, HVAC, sewers. They'll ask us to do a bunch of those things quickly. It's not doing the full scope. But we can do those. And again, I'm seeing them more that way right now than from the buy side. The buy side, you're better off just paying for the full inspection, for the cost of a full inspection. You're way better off paying for the full thing and just having it done. Most inspections are taking, 2.5 hours. And depending on the size of the house, if it's, 5,000 square foot, 6,000 square foot house, we'll send out 2 inspectors. So again, the time frame is still about the same.
Is your pre-listing inspection fees, is it cheaper than the?
It's a little bit, yes. So we got pricing, and pricing for inspections, you'll find a pretty wide range of pricing. Based on square footage, based on what type of house it is, based on what other ancillary products you add to that. So the pricing can range anywhere from $397 to $1,000 or so. To be able to figure out kind of what all you're inspecting and depending on the size of the house.
So one of the things it says right here, I'm gonna contradict one of the statements here. Again, we've already talked about the importance of that you're engaging a licensed inspector. And it's just not the company that's licensed. I think all of your inspectors are also licensed.
Correct. That was the big change, was individual inspectors have to be licensed.
So it says right here, your contractors don't need to be licensed if only given an estimate of repairs or remodeling. I disagree with that. I mean, we've had some inspections come back and I look at it because I've been doing it a little while and I'm going, there's no way it could cost that little bit. Because they're trying to tell the buyer that it's just a small little fix. Until you move in and they go and it blows up on you. So I don't accept that if I see this comes in, somebody that's not a licensed contractor that doesn't understand. That, a 2x4 is no longer 98 cents a board, an 8-foot board, it's $5. I don't accept that. But you do need the home inspection report. And that's the deal.
Do you also do appraisal?
Appraisal? No, we don't.
Only inspection?
Only inspection.
Business. So the thing I kind of did a little different instead of just looking at the contract itself. I want you to read the inspection paragraph or the inspection section in the purchase agreement, because it's like 2.5 pages long. So the principle behind all of this is that there's a timeline involved. When I say I'm gonna have a home inspected in 10 days, and if I can get all my contractors out there and get all my reports back within that 10-day period of time, and there might be a few things in the report, and I'm gonna tell my buyers that, well, maybe you shouldn't ask for everything, the little things, go to the 5 and dime and fix, but the big things, the health and safety issues, for sure you wanna ask for. So, in the request to remedy. So in that again, if you put 10 days in there. You have all your reports done, you reviewed all your reports with your buyer, and within that 10-day period of time, before the 10th day expires at midnight. You have to have your buyer's request remedy submitted over to the seller. Here's my request, I want you to fix these things. So it's within that first 10 days. Then the second part of the contract, it says, well, how many more days are you gonna allow the seller to respond? And so typically I see like 5 days. 5 days. So now in a hot market, here's what happens. In fact, in any market, this is what will happen. I write my home inspection, I say, I want you to fix this stuff. And I call you in the morning, I say, hey, I just sent you over a request of remedy. And, you know, we got 5 days to kind of get this whole thing figured out. And I go, yeah, okay, I'll get it over to my seller. I'll get it over there. And so day 1 goes by, I don't hear back, but you know, I figure he's thinking about it. And day 2 goes by and nothing happens. I don't hear back from him. Day 3, I'm thinking, I'm gonna call him. So I call him, I go, hey, what's going on with that request to remedy report? You know, I need to I want to give my clients some feedback on your client's position on the items we asked them to fix. Oh, yeah, they're thinking about it, they're thinking. No, and then day 4 goes by. And I get on the phone again, I go, you know, we're in the 4th day of the 5-day request to remedy. All right, I still haven't heard back from you, we don't know whether he's gonna do it or not. So 2 scenarios, day 5 comes by. And day 5 goes into day 6. Guess what happened to that contract? It automatically terminated. It automatically died. There was no response from the seller. That's read the contract on the bottom. It says, you know, if the seller and the buyer don't come to an agreement by the end of the 5th day, this contract shall become null and void. So what do? I get a hold of my client. Scenario 2, I get a hold of my client on day 4, and I give them this scenario. You could say, hey, my broker told me about this, and I think you should hear what he had to say. It's always good to put a story, take it off your shoulders, put it on somebody else's shoulders, because I'm not in the room. So what happens is on day 4, I'm calling my client and I'm telling my client, I go, hey, listen, we got 5 days to get this request to remedy. And we have 2 choices. We could send over a notice that you waive all your items that you wish to request. Or we could send over a notice to request for additional time for the seller to respond. So there's 2 things, but the seller has to accept that extension. So what happens, Mr. Buyer, is that if you don't terminate your request to remedy, you know, you're going to rescind your request to remedy, then the seller can terminate the contract. If you rescind it, you only need 1 signature. You only just need the signature from the buyer. It's not a document where you need the seller's signature. So the seller can't come back, well, we didn't sign it. You know, so that doesn't work. The rescission is a 1-party contract. I rescind my previous offer of having you fix something, and the contract shall continue, we'll move to close as scheduled. That's one way, but if you don't do it, if you don't advise your client what happens, then the contract could die. And in a short market where there's only, and we have 10,000 realtors in Central Ohio, and Columbus Port Realtors, only 10,000 of us. And there's only 3,000 homes for sale. So if somebody's not doing some work, there's not even enough houses out there to sell. There's only about a month and a quarter, month and a half of real estate homes on the market today. So what might have happened, that seller may have a backup offer that may make some more money, maybe maybe they waived the home inspection. Right? So you don't know. So, but you have the choice. I know you like the home. It's in the school district you want. It's got that great playground back. You know, do you want to rescind your request to remedy, or do you want to terminate the deal? What do you want to do? Because I can tell you, you didn't explain that to them when the contract was written. Right, so you're explaining it to them when you're at the 10th hour. So the value you bring to the table is in the contract before we even write the contract. I'm gonna go over that real quick. Let me talk to you about the importance of a home inspection and the results of the request. So these are the scenarios we're gonna go through. This is why you're hiring me to represent you in the market today. And your family and the second generation. I want repeat business.
And there's tons of time now that you're writing contracts where you say we're not gonna ask for remedies. We see that contract constantly, but they still get the inspection. Because you're trying to find out if there's something that has to do with health or safety. If there's something major that has to do with health or safety, you want it fixed one way or the other, you want the listing agent, the sellers, you're gonna have to negotiate something to either fix it or split it, or just know how you're gonna get it resolved. That's the reason to get the inspection, no matter what, whether you ask for a remedy or not, you're still trying to look out for the well-being of your client.
Yes, so you write the contract. We want to do our home inspection, but we will not ask for any requests for remedy, but we want to exercise our right to terminate the offer if we find something that is serious enough that would prohibit us from following through. Contract clauses, they're made up, I mean. I always say, I should bring a reporter around because I can't remember what I just said. I came up with a good one, like, what is this? No, just kidding. The reason why I'm saying it, because these are the things that you need to do.
Yeah, and contract clauses are written by the attorney, right? Contract clauses are written by attorneys for attorneys, not for you. They're for the attorneys to use against you at some later date. So you gotta read it, you gotta be cautious, the dates matter. Right, how you write that up matters for you too.
What's on your mind?
You guys have been around, you guys have done it, when was the last time you had an inspection done on one of your buyers? Give me the latest one you had. 6 months ago, all right, how'd it go? Good, bad, indifferent, you don't have to rat anybody out.
Was it commercial? Was it a commercial bill?
Residential, all right, and we do commercial, we do residential, we do it all, so. Good, bad, or indifferent, don't rat anybody else, but good, bad, or indifferent, what do you think of?
Amber will do commercial work also.
Okay,
It's on our.
Awesome.
So they do commercial inspections.
we can do anything commercial, we can do anything up to 4 stories. Anything over 4 stories, at 5 stories above needs a structural engineer.
And when it was fine, the inspection.
It was fine.
Of course, I recommend who I wanna use, which happens to be you guys. They go and find somebody cheaper, like, okay, whatever.
Look,
But again, you can't,
no, and again, that's why you give them 3, and people are gonna use, they decide based on whatever their reasonings are, I promise you, and again, it's okay. We shop our pricing twice a year, and we know that we're not the lowest, but we're absolutely, I promise you, not trying to be the lowest, we feel that there's great value in what we do and how we do it, and not only the reports, but in the extra things that you'll get from us. We offer closing gifts for every one of your clients too, so if they use us for an inspection, you're automatically gonna have a closing gift that shows up with the picture of the house on it, with your logo on it, with your picture on it, so we help make sure that your branding is good for them as well when they buy it.
it wasn't an investor property, they're out of state, so I had them and all that, but the company they ended up hiring was showed up in like their personal vehicle, were like contractor looking.
Right, look, again, like it takes all kinds to keep this business running. You know, I don't sweat that kind of stuff too much, we're just not going to be the cheapest because there's great
Well,
value
you
in what
get
we
what you
offer,
pay for
for sure. We're not the highest, we know that, like, we're not priced over the market because we wanna be, we're the #1 market share inspector in Central Ohio. So we know our value, we know that we're doing a great job, we're priced right for most customers.
My latest inspection was last week.
Last week, good, bad, or indifferent?
I say good, my clients almost wanted to waive it. But I informed that my brokerage recommended that you should.
It's great.
So then they sort of indifferent for a while and then decided to do it. Well, they found like about 20+ electrical issues. So then I went ahead and requested for remedies, they fixed all of it.
Everything.
And plus the AC unit had some sort of rust oil, it's sort of like, it looked like it burned out. So I was able to request credit for $5,000 for the AC unit,
Beautiful.
and the inspection plus $500.
Look, the average purchase is $390-ish, right, in this market. You know, to spend $1,000 or under to go find out what my $400,000 investment is gonna be like for the first year or two. You know, the value of that is irreplaceable, really. So the cost on that for everything you're gonna do. It's pretty simple. That choice is pretty.
My previous broker, because I'm private, she was very small, uses you guys, and she bought our house personally. Waived inspection, 2 days later, her basement flooded. And she's a broker.
Right. It's sad. That could happen even after the inspection. I want you to know, we get calls all the time that, you know, we go back to the report, look at it and say, you know what, we might have missed that. That's on us, but we'll make sure to take care of that remedy ourselves. We just did an $8,000 payout and one that we really didn't feel like was our mistake as much as it was the right thing to do for the buyers. And we're like, let's just, like, we want them to be taken care of.
You know. Well, in conclusion, I want to close with 3 things. One, take a look at this. I mean, we constantly have training in the office throughout the day, throughout the week. We have evening classes, we got Saturday. There's always somebody here doing a class. So the more you internalize, your day-to-day activities and what's going on in this industry, you know, when you're out in a crowd and people say, "Oh, you're what are you doing?" They go, you know, what is your script? You know, learn your script. You know, just don't say, "Well, yeah, I sell real estate." I was in the, I went to the doctor and the doctor said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I really stay focused on helping people generate wealth through the investment of their additional income so I could have future generational wealth." And the doctor looked at me and he goes, "What the fuck, you just..." I said, "Well, I can put it in layman terms, I'm a realtor." I sell commercial real estate, but I help people build wealth through investment and financial analysis of properties. So know your script, know your elevator pitch. So when you're in that, you can have so much fun with it too. But here, go to these things, do some homework on your own, learn your facts and mark. These are, all of you are going to have your membership to NAR and OR, Ohio Realtors. Visit those sites. There's so much information on that area. And I want to thank Bill for taking his evening with us and sharing more about this mortgage world that we're in today and how things are changing in the financial institution. So, and how important it is for us to understand what he knows so we can give it to our buyers. So I want to thank you for taking your time today. I know you can be home with your family. And Kevin, as always, supporting us tonight. Thank you for pizza.
Love it.
Yeah, I like the interaction that we have and the conversation of what the home inspection value is to everybody. I want to thank Kevin for being with us also tonight.
Notice he didn't stay home with his family. I didn't get to go to the bar yet, so I was like, he knows me too well. I'm stopping to have a drink at some point on the way home, so.
All right, well, where are you going?
This hell place is closed here, Mark.
Are we following you?
I want to make sure that you guys have my cell phone before we forget too, if you don't mind. You write this down just so you have it. 419-360-1285. I just want to make sure you're able to get a hold of me whenever you need or have questions or issues, please feel free.
Is this it right here, Kevin?
That's it, yes, sir.
Okay, 419-360-1285. Remember, I'm going to send you the second week slide. Okay, so mark your calendars. I'm going to need to change this. So on June 13th, I have a zoning meeting to attend on some land that I got. So I won't be able to be here, so we're gonna do it on the 12th. That's a Wednesday, I believe. We're gonna do it the day before, and we're gonna have title. We're gonna go over different types of title and closing statements. You know, again, how do we convey? Because you have to review these closing statements before you pass them off to your client, make sure everything is lined up right. You know, number one, the purchase price is right. And you know, additionally, you know, addendum 1, addendum 2, you know, how many addendums you got to the contract, make sure all the numbers reflect what you've done. So we're gonna be going over, pretty much the title work on that. And, as always, we will have more updates, because now we're in the middle of the month. We might have some documents ready to present, to everybody during that period of time. So, you know, a lot of things have been happening on a weekly basis. So, I know I have the 13th here. That's a Thursday, but I have a zoning board meeting to attend. And it's in Hilliard, so it's across town. Take me 40 minutes to get there. And then, so we're gonna do this on the 12th. So mark your calendar at 12, same time. We will have a sponsor. You won't go hungry. You gotta get used to pizza though. So any questions before we wrap the night up?
When you say you guys give classes sometimes, like on Saturdays and
What's that again?
classes on Saturdays, sometimes?
Yeah, well, in our intranet calendar, we have mentorship programs. And they have classes on Saturdays too, because some of the mentors can't make it during the week. Some licensees, maybe have just got their license and they're currently working for an employer, and you know, you're working, gee whiz, you gotta show up to work.
Yeah.
That was a novel idea. So yes, I don't know what that looks like. I would have to get on the calendar itself. But once we get you on board, and then Pamela will go through your onboarding and how to get to the intranet site and how to look for the training calendars that we have. And then you'll get those emails anyway. So, okay. If you have something specific, I could, when I email you this, I could send you some information. Okay. You guys want to stay longer?
No, is the answer, right? Like, no.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rusty Bucket, we wanna go out by a drink? Anybody feels like stopping by Rusty Bucket?
You go to Rusty Mike?
Yeah. Okay. It's Wednesday night somewhere.
Saturday night.
All right,
Right, right.
Where is the finance?
right here.
I think I'm both for you.
You're welcome. You're very, what's that?
I'm here in Grove City and I left at 5 and I still.
Oh, man. No.
It was nasty.
Oh, we're taking out that heavy rain.
Will you get some home, take some?
And,
The
you know,
only roll for it this morning with no rain.
yeah, and to that, so I apologize.